um,
Leonardo, is
Yep.
Christina can never make it at this time. Is
no idea, Alaska. She usually can get off, but I guess she may have forgotten, So anyway, I'll ask her if she wanna continue being part of the committee or not, or whether she can come at this hour or maybe a different time. We'll see.
Remember, Leo, it's required that 2 town board members, according to the resolution that created the committee, 2 town board members should have to be members.
2 town members, huh? Okay.
I mean, if she needs to move it to another time, we can look
Yeah, for another
in
time.
this for a couple, 3 years, so.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's start with approval of February meetings. I hope everyone had a chance to take a look at it. If there isn't any comment, then I'll move it for a vote.
I would second that. I do have a comment.
Yes. Is that for
First,
April or for May?
February.
Okay. Oh, sorry. April or
Leonard, you said February, I think.
yeah, February. Yeah.
Okay, and first I want to say, Lauren, amazing job doing these minutes. It's great. It's great. Really, really appreciate it. There's just one tiny thing on page 1. We're talking about short-term rentals, and there's a sentence where you say, some residents feel that the SPR regulations are too strict. I assume that was supposed to be STR.
Yeah,
Okay.
STR.
Okay, that's it, and I just wanted to mention that and make sure that I understood correctly.
I appreciate
it. All right, so anyone else?
Yeah, I have a couple. I'm confused. Are we on April?
April, yes.
Okay.
April.
In the first paragraph, there is a substantive error. The second line, it should say, which include research relevant to affordable housing rather than.
Where are you, Chuck?
The second line of the first paragraph. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. I may be shorting us. Yes, I am. I beg your pardon. This is page 3 of 4, the top paragraph. You with me? Potential housing grant application.
What line number?
Line number 2.
We're on February's minutes. February 12th.
I just asked if we were on April and was told yes. I'm confused.
I'm confused then.
We're doing February 12th.
Martha, yes.
Okay, I'll shut up. Thank you.
So if there isn't any more additions or editing for the February minutes, then I'll everyone voting for the approval, please raise your hand. All right, so let's move on. Let's approve. The second is the April meeting. Now I'll move the April meetings, and if there is any editing, then we can do it now.
I'll pick up where I left off.
Okay.
Page 3.
Who's seconding?
Oh, thank you.
I got Mike. Okay, Chuck. Page 2, you said?
Page 3.
Page 3, second paragraph? Or second line?
Second line of the under where it says potential housing grant application.
Mm-hmm.
It currently reads which are intended for research and not for direct project implementation. That's not correct. It should read which include research relevant to affordable housing. May I move on to a second change?
1 second. Relative for affordable housing, right?
Correct.
Which include research relevant for affordable housing.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Okay,
Dropping down to the section that says infrastructure study, the last line in that paragraph
mhm.
says that um, a rolling application with no deadline, and that's incorrect. It's a September deadline until funds are exhausted.
With a September deadline until funds are exhausted.
That's correct.
Okay,
All right, Chuck, you weren't actually at this meeting.
But I've read the guidelines just prior to today's meeting,
Okay,
and I'm certain of what I'm saying.
okay.
And I wasn't at the last meeting due to medical reasons. Otherwise, I would have attended. I'm sorry.
No, of course. I'm not questioning that you, yeah. Okay.
Anyone else?
I actually have one last item. The paragraph under Hanshaw Village Mobile Home Park Sewer Project.
Yeah.
There's a parentheses in the middle of that paragraph, multiple boil water orders. What are those? Should it be more clear?
Those are Tompkins County Health orders mandating you have to boil your water. So yeah, that's kind of a term of art that maybe bears explanation.
Okay, I'll leave it to your discretion, Lauren, whether you want to.
I didn't take these minutes, Chuck, so.
Oh, right. Thank you.
Yeah, he wasn't here.
Well,
think
if
you
it's a,
could simply say they have issued multiple boil water orders.
Yeah.
thank you, Martha. That's good. No more.
No more. Anyone else? Please raise your hand again for approval of the meetings with the changes suggested by Chuck. All right. Approve. I assume nobody's abstaining or not approving.
I'll second.
Okay. I think Martha seconded, right?
Mike did.
Okay. All right. So let's move to the other one then. An update for the zoning group. Is Gina or
Yeah,
Ray?
I can give that. So the zoning advisory group was intended to take the original audit report that Nan Stolzenberg put together, which was a 30-page audit report.
Yeah.
We're pulling out the first year's focus, and it was mainly going to be around housing issues, and also with other issues being dealt with were data centers and battery storage, BESS. So that's been now 2 meetings, which is the first Thursday of every month. And we're going to yet have another one the first Thursday of June. And hopefully that'll be the culmination of it, where we get through the entire focus scope of work. And that will be then forwarded to the town board for their approval. So that'll be at the June town board meeting. And that'll be Nan's marching orders for going forward with the zoning rewrite. So it's basically been, as I say, going through the audit as a subset of that. Basically, John Kiefer went through, did first cut at pulling out what we're kind of calling the low-hanging fruit, but there's definitely some meatier issues in there. But this is what's going to be dealt with in the first year. The idea being that this is the, it'll be an easier lift to get this portion of our zoning and subdivision law amended. We'll get used to the process. We'll get used to the public's engagement in it. And, we can get a decent amendment done by the end of the calendar year. And then we'll go through the same process for phase 2, which will be next year's work product. And again, we would run through that same process of getting a scope of work and then basically handing that over to the consultant.
Okay. Questions? Yes, Martha.
Yeah, I've been at these last 3 meetings as well, and I have to say it's been kind of confusing because I didn't really get any orientation. I sort of had to just jump into the water. But I will say that, I was pretty disappointed to hear that Nan had not read our comments. As of last Thursday, she didn't realize that she'd been sent them. And she sort of, in the meeting, she went back and said, oh, yeah, there they are.
Yeah.
Ray, is that
Oh,
wrong?
Martha, she did call afterwards and apologize for that. She had received that back in February. It's just that it was so long ago because it's when this committee originally forwarded it to the planning board. So she received it at that time, but she hadn't engaged back with that document since the February receipt date.
Right, so she got them, but she hadn't read our comments.
Well, no, I think she read them at that time. So she had benefit of all the comments that were, done in the track changes document. And now as the planning board is going through this process of picking out what of that 30-page document is going to be worked on this year, again, as Nan works, if she's working on page 10 of that audit report, she will then have benefit of the comments from this committee relative to those page 10 issues.
Okay. I'm glad to hear that. It was kind of a little bit of a shock. I would just mention that there were, just to update, there were a couple of things that, as we did go through some of the pages, our comments on ADUs were pretty completely accepted by the advisory group, about that height would be allowed to be as high as the principal residence. In the previous version, it was not allowed, an ADU could not be as high as the principal. That we had offered, or that we thought that the owner did not have to live in the principal residence in order to have an ADU. That's true for short-term rentals, which they want to be more controlled, but not for ADUs. So they accepted that. So there was a lot of conversation about the conservation subdivision and the density issue, and we had talked a lot about that too. When they said minimum lot size of 10 acres, when Nan had suggested a minimum lot size of 10 acres, there was a whole lot of conversation about that. Ray, I would say that still hasn't been resolved. Is that right? And
Right. So Nan, I think Nan took away from that last meeting direction of a much higher density than 10. But yet that number is still yet to be decided. And so I think her directive was to come back with some example ordinances from other townships of how they've dealt with this issue of not necessarily talking about minimum lot size, but talking about density number. And so I think the ZAG, the Zoning Advisory Group, will get benefit of that sample ordinance, and June's discussion will revolve around, okay, what number are we going to forward to the town board as a recommendation? And ultimately, it'll probably be bantied about further, because as we write other sections of the code, we'll say, okay, well, maybe if we loosen up the density here, we can control the adverse impacts by putting something else in somewhere else. So, we're trying to get a general agreement on a density number and a general feel for the development pattern. But the details will fluctuate as we get concrete draft laws. So I wouldn't say, this next June first Thursday meeting, we're going to decide on, 5 per acre, and that's going to be it for the rest of the process. I don't think it's that final.
Okay. Yeah, because there was a lot of back and forth. I didn't pull any consensus out of the conversation at all.
Mhm.
Right? I mean, and she was there was a lot of conversation about that the comprehensive plan emphasized preserving the rural character of the town. But that's in some ways conflicting with the desire to increase housing supply. So trying to balance that and figure out how to make it work, especially also where farmers need some direction and really would like some flexibility on how they use their land as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, this zoning advisory group includes somebody from the ag board. So
Mhm.
it was Evan Carpenter, he spoke up about that. Ray, I really want to touch base with you about the whole process. Because I
Mhm.
think, and Marie McCrae asked me also, when you get an orientation, can you include me? So,
Mhm. Yes, happy to. Yep.
so both of us need a little bit more background, I think, to be better prepared for the next meeting. So I'll be in touch with you about that. Thank you.
Okay. Yep.
Anyone else? Any questions?
I see Chuck's hand up.
Thank you for that clarification, Ray. I would like to be included in that as well. I intend to start attending those meetings. And I wanted to know if Craig is still on the planning board. Is he on our committee, and is he the liaison person between us and them?
I'm the liaison.
He is not our liaison anymore.
He's not on our board. He's not on this committee.
Okay.
Tony Salerno is supposed to be the person, and I assume he is receiving the notice of the meeting. So
He's
again,
supposed to be on this board, this committee?
that's what Craig said,
Right.
right? So
Yeah, I think he has brought it up as an agenda item the last couple of planning board meetings. No one else is stepping up to it. He said he would attend, maybe one of the housing committee meetings, but he was not stepping into the role of liaison for the planning board to this committee. No.
Really? Wow. And it's I think it's part of membership to have someone on the planning committee, right? When we pass the resolution to create this committee,
The resolution does require a planning board member be a part of this committee as well.
so I guess we'll take it back to the planning board to
Yeah.
ask for
Say, again, if the timing is a problem, let's work out.
Yeah, we can work it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. I suspect it's more that since they're doing a zoning rewrite, there's already, 2 meetings of the planning board on the schedule each month, and then other ones besides that. So they are probably feeling maxed out by the current effort. So that's why they're not seeing somebody to step up to the role of liaison for another committee.
Right, but as far as from this committee to the zoning advisory group, that's me.
Yep.
Right, but that's just temporary. Although now I find out it's like up to 3 years, not just 1 year. Like
The zoning rewrite is going to be a 3-year process. Yeah.
yeah, I didn't pick up that in the notes.
Well, the good news is the housing issues are being dealt with in the first year.
Right.
Good.
And it's still temporary, right? All right. So thank you for the update, Ray and Marta. The next one, I want to sort of put it all together. Okay. So discussion on the NYSEG infrastructure study involved, as I understood, and Martha actually put it together clearly as an option to pursue the $10,000 grant from from the county. And at the same time, Chuck sent this other proposal. So shall we sort of have a conversation together about this, or to decide on one for this year? I wanna hear what you think about it. Yes, Martha.
Yeah, I wrote to you, Chuck, this morning and then left a phone message. I don't know if you saw that, Chuck, about.
I did see your message. Thanks, Martha.
Okay. I do have some questions about the manufactured housing proposal. But one of them is really about what could the town do as a result of the information from Chuck's proposal. Whereas I know for especially looking back at the 2008 or 2007 infrastructure or Route 13 corridor study that the county did together with the town, it feels like there's a real path forward on that. I mean, it was a great study, and I think we never did anything with it. And it feels like something where the county would be very encouraged or, supportive of us identifying a next step or some next steps related to the NYSEG area. And especially as the zoning is being rewritten. So, because that's obviously a key part of it too. So I was hoping, and and Chuck, you weren't at the last meeting when we talked about this. So I don't want this to be a competition, but I just thought there was a piece missing there.
Yeah, it certainly didn't help that I wasn't at the last meeting and therefore didn't know that until I read the minutes what had transpired. The interesting fact is that I think we have two really interesting opportunities here. Unfortunately, there's only $20,000 in the county budget for these housing affordability and supportive infrastructure grants. I think we are well positioned to get one of those. As you know, in some years, not all that money gets expended. And all of a sudden, the opposite situation is we have more than one good idea. I think what I understand from what Martha shared with me and what Ray has circulated from the last meeting so that we could all get caught up on the corridor surveys and the potential as Miller comes to closure on their work that we indeed could follow very justifiably on past research and thinking that's been done that very much conforms to the county's ideas of what we call nodal development. There's been a long and I think important conversation, and now we have more than ever before. What you just said, Martha, about the zoning going on at the same time. This is a moment to, I think, do further research on the corridor. That said, let me just explain where I'm coming from with regard to the proposal that I shared with Leonardo and he circulated. I hope you've all had a chance to look at the one pager. And maybe I'll start just by saying it's important to note that the label of this grant, though I emphasized infrastructure in the way I composed the proposal, the hypothetical proposal to the county, the first word in that is two words, are housing affordability. And I think we have some work cut out for us if we go with the sentiments that were expressed in our last Housing Committee meeting, that we need to work on the affordability dimension of it, because as it currently stands, it's heavy on infrastructure and planning. On the other hand, if you go to the website from the county and look at the guidelines, the next to last one is, and I'm going to read it to you here, create and preserve affordable housing opportunities in manufactured home parks and improve housing conditions within the parks. Now, that's a guideline. That's not an ironclad rule. There are other guidelines which speak very directly to the thinking that took place in the meeting that I missed. For instance, encourage a variety of housing types and meet the diverse needs, preferences, and income levels of Tompkins County residents. Actually, that could go, I think either of our proposal ideas would conform well to that. The same with the first guideline, increase the number of municipalities applying for state or federal funding related to housing affordability, including but not limited to CDBG, et cetera, several others. So the question might be on your minds. I think it's on Martha's mind very much. Hasn't a lot of data already been gathered that has to do with the infrastructure that I raise or I point to in the application I'm advocating? And indeed, there is quite a bit of that information that we have in the town of Dryden. I think we all know that it's incomplete, or we wouldn't have hired Miller and Company to do the engineering survey, which is finally getting done. But there's quite a bit of additional information we would need to, I think, wisely assess the vacancies in the mobile home communities in the town of Dryden. And just,
We are
refresh
losing
your
you.
memory. In the
Chuck, you're breaking up. How about you turn off
town,
your
including
camera?
other county.
Chuck, we couldn't hear the
Okay,
last
I'm
few
going
things.
to
Could you turn off
shut
your
off my
camera
visual
and
so it
rewind what you said?
not quite sure where to go back to, but can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Can you hear me better now?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So the point I was making is that we have something that could be in the vernacular called focus areas, called mobile home communities, that are all over our particular town. We're the largest town in the county, and we have the most mobile home parks, probably 12. We have 1,124 mobile home residents. It's the second largest form of residence in our town, except for single-family homes. So in a way, it's a bird in the hand versus the what if and the maybes, the contingencies that come to us as a result of the corridor study. As much as has gone into that over the years, and with the probable completion of the engineering studies, mobile home parks are not something to look away from if you're interested in affordable housing, which is why I went to Greg Mazie, which is why I have gone to various county officials and gone to INHS and others to think about vacancies in these mobile home parks. One way of increasing affordable housing in our town, I'm pretty sure that I'm right, that 5% of our mobile home park population pads and units are vacant. I say that from an awful lot of walkthroughs that I've done. 5% of 1,124 residences is 56 units. That's not trivial. Tompkins County would be very proud of itself if it produced 56 affordable units, be they in manufactured housing or in some other form. So I'm just attempting to give you some perspective. Both of these proposals that we are playing with here have merit. And I guess the last thing I would say is that I'm guessing at this, and you guys can set me straight. My guess is that there are multiple places we can go as a town to get funding to do feasibility studies on how to densify along the corridor in the nodal areas. That's my hunch. There is only one source to which we can go for mobile home park assistance from the county at the present time. And I say that based on an awful lot of research and conversations with Shauna Stevenson and others. So there you have it. I think we have two very interesting proposals. Let's talk about them.
Chuck, didn't the Park Foundation fund Sustainable Tompkins mobile home park, the work that Holly did on mobile home parks?
No, that was state money. They may have supplemented it, but to my knowledge, it was state money that was a special one-time allocation. But if what you were thinking of, Martha, is that perhaps Park could be reapproached to do what I am proposing in the thing that I sent around to you folks. That's an interesting idea, and I don't think we should not go to them and explore that.
I'm also, as I wrote to you, what I'm puzzled by is what we would do with the information. The park owners, like, this isn't vacant land. It's not, I mean, they're empty vacant pads that are sprinkled around different parks. But what would the town do about the information that you propose to gather? I'm not clear on that.
Well, I'm of the belief that we're in deficit when it comes to affordable housing in the
Oh,
town,
yeah.
and that mobile homes inside, but particularly the ones that are inside our mobile home communities, run the gamut from very new and in excellent condition to some very old pre-1976, which basically should be demolished and put in landfills and replaced. The state has a variety of both repair, refurbish, and replacement policies. And it's, Martha, you are assuming that the mobile home park owners know and care very much about their vacancies, both vacant pads where a mobile home unit, an obsolete one, has been removed and is probably going to be replaced very much the way Compass is done through INHS, or that they can be refurbished. And it's in the refurbished area that there's a lot of ambiguity, because mobile home park owners have to make a decision whether it's financially in their interest, even with help from the state, be it the energy infrastructure or roofing or things like that, to make that investment and then perhaps raise the rents and extract profit from them in order to run a business. Chip Ray is making that decision right now. There's a surprising number of vacancies in the Varna mobile home community, and it's potentially up for sale. And groups like INHS are reaching out. I met with Ben Carver about 10 days ago, and they are very interested in reaching out to additional mobile home communities that might be up for sale and would welcome suggestions or clues that any of us might have as to ones that are available. And I would love to see them be the go-between as opposed to a financial interest, which would dramatically change the landscape when it comes to affordability. And we can't rule out that CHIP or other mobile home park owners in our town and the surrounding towns won't sell out to the financial interests, which are already in our town, as we know. So, as for what we would get out of it, if I'm right in my estimate, once we can clinch the data in terms of vacancies and the reasons for the vacancies, not just sort of a matrix, but real explanations, and that requires a walkthrough and somebody like Holly Hutchinson, who's done a lot of time on the ground, who lives in a mobile home and has done so for many years in 2 states and has been involved. Holly has a spreadsheet which is incomplete, but it involves data from at least 3 county agencies, and et cetera, et cetera. We have an unusually capable person who could do this research, bird in the hand. This is not hypothetical. And then I think we could go to the county and say to Greg and to others like him, the county has an opportunity based on what's going on in our town to amplify its work on mobile home communities across the county. And let's lead off with Dryden. And as I said earlier, I think 56 additional affordable units in mobile homes, not that they would happen overnight, but nothing does, as we've seen with Ezra Village in the village of Dryden. Things take time to work themselves out.
If I could just, I'm still not clear what the town's role would be. Once we identify that Chip Ray has 30% of his pads open, then what? I mean,
I didn't say
I'm
Oh.
making up a number. Let's
Oh.
just say, and obviously we can give INHS Chip Ray's phone number and say y'all should talk. I mean, so here's my thing. And by the way, if Ray sent so many documents, I don't know if people have had a chance to look at them, but the the drawings from the Route 13 study show, potentially hundreds of new developments and new housing units. If I can can I share a screen here? If I can, let's see if I can, sharing is not turned on, if I can do that.
This made you a co-host, Martha, so you should be able to do it now.
Okay, let's see if I can do that. So for example, this is one sketch of, if you can see, Ray, help me, I'm using my cursor, I don't know if you can see that. This is the NYSEG building.
Correct.
This is Route
Yep.
13. So this is one proposal for, is this actually the Leonardo
It
parcel?
is. So there's 50 acres there in the major 2 circles there.
In these 2 circles?
Yeah.
Yep.
This is not Leonardo's land on this side, is it?
No, there is a small 5 acre piece over there, but the main 100 acre is on the near side of Route 13. And then 50 of that is on each side of the rail trail. So the rail trail line at the bottom is the midpoint of the parcel. Yep, that's the midpoint.
This is that the rail trail?
Yep,
Okay. Is there Leonardo land over here?
yep. So 50 acres of that 100 is on the Fall Creek side of the rail trail.
Okay, all right. Could housing potentially go here, or would this want to be protected because of?
Yeah, it's better in conservation status. There's a lot of floodplain down there, and it might be a way of putting a few millionaire homes in there to pencil out the project better, but most of the development should take place on the uphill side of the rail trail.
Okay, and as we've talked before, let me see if I get the right. So this is kind of the broad sketch of that.
Yep.
And then this is, again, this is from the 2007 report. And then there was, we have also talked about, now this is flipping the direction of it. This is now Route 13. This was the area that sketch just showed, right, Ray?
The orange area, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
This is down here with Hamlet of Varna. And we have talked previously, for example, with Cornell, about that the water and sewer infrastructure is kind of in this area.
Right.
There's a worry that we don't want to encourage building or allow building in some of the sensitive environmental areas here, but the truth is we have a lot of water and sewer access with very little development, very little housing development here. So I guess my interest in this is that there be a professional examination of, okay, where are we now with this whole area? If you get a professional to dig into the T.G. Miller, the 2020 infrastructure study, and new construction that's already happened in this area, as well as the zoning conversation that's happening right now. And Ray, did you say the T.G. Miller study that literally was supposed to examine this parcel? Is that, we still don't have that yet?
He did send a draft over to me to see if I had any comments before they finalized it. That was a month ago, and they still haven't finalized it. If this, yeah, I could send that out to this group as just a draft form so you can get kind of an idea of what it is. But the numbers, as I say, he was still going to go back and get more realistic numbers penciled in.
So you
he's-
thought his
he's in-
initial wasn't that realistic?
Yeah, because it was already a couple of years old.
My question is that where his engineering study was done? Is that the area that he studied?
Yeah.
The 1 mile extension from NYSEG, which is where the utilities end right now. So it runs out and basically encompasses, or at least to the edge of that orange block.
Okay, that's a mile from here's NYSEG, that's
Yep.
a mile,
No, the near edge.
the near edge.
Yeah,
Oh,
Okay.
he didn't go into that side. Okay.
yeah.
So the water and sewer, he's gonna judge the cost to bring that here.
Right, to the edge of that parcel so that that could be developed, because that's the main vacant land that's developable in that node.
Okay, and there is a small mobile home park, manufactured home park in here.
There is.
Yep.
Have they had a decent water and sewer? Are they in good shape?
I've not heard of any issues, so I presume that they've been better than most.
Okay. Okay, so with so much time and effort that's gone into this corner, into this area, this whole area, and with, as I said, real potential for quite a bit more, I mean, to create a new village, really, in this area. Kind of, that was my hope to sort of take the next step. I think the county would be very supportive of taking the next step on this, so we can actually consolidate the information that's been collected over the years and make a plan for what's the next step, especially that finally the landowner, the Leonardo parcel owner, Ray, you said last month, is finally interested in some development, and INHS is interested as well.
Yeah, and INHS really, part of their bottom line is they want to develop on public water and sewer. They don't want to do a venture that's off of that.
It's a smart
So that's
thing.
critical to their participation.
So
I think
if water and sewer came to the edge of that parcel, would that,
Yeah,
okay,
that would be the way you'd want to go. I mean, it's nice that there's a number of multiple parks that have problems that we could help with, but this is a major investment if we get the water and sewer there, because it's a big chunk of land.
Mhm.
And whether he sells part of it off or he develops the whole part himself, it seems like that's the best way to go. But what would our $10,000, what would that study further? It's now you have the engineering study and he's trying to get bigger numbers. What would make it more developable? You know, somebody will make the decision saying, oh, based on this study, and now we have how much it costs to bring the sewer and the water there. What else do we need to do? I don't know. That's why I'm asking you that we do some type of study that would help the person say, okay, I want to go ahead.
Well, I think like the Tompkins County housing study of a few years ago pointed to a need for, but I think before a developer invests money, they get more specific and say, could they actually sell units in this exact location? And it just gets more specificity rather than a general idea of a need 3,000 units. The idea that it could be developed 400 units here and they would be desirable.
It's close to everything, you know, this Ithaca, so I would think it would be
well,
desirable.
close to jobs, I mean, it's really been identified as a node, because the transportation goes right through there. You can go to Cornell, you can go to up to Lansing, et cetera, right? You mean like a market study, like a current market study? Is that what you'd be looking for?
Well, that would seem like a piece that is, in the next batch of research. Yeah.
Thanks.
Ray, I have a question for you. I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to this. I should. Is our definition of nodal areas in our comp plan and the county's definition of focus areas, do they overlap so that there would be even more credibility in our going to the county and using $10,000, et cetera?
Yeah. I refer to them pretty interchangeably.
But technically, is if we map those two concepts on each other from the two plans, do they overlap?
Yep. They're both centered on the NYSEG intersection.
Okay, then another question in the report. Thanks for sending all that stuff out again with the maps, et cetera. It talks about the traditional versus the focus area approach and doubling the density. And I think it was up from 180 potential units. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. So it'd be double that. That's still pretty low density. It would seem to me that if we want to densify in a nodal area, that another thing to add to the list of what we would want a consultant to give us technical information on the infrastructure demands, et cetera, is how high a density or different density scenarios, what kind of infrastructure would be required. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah. I'd like to see the different housing styles. So we diversify the stock and what the density maximums. Yeah, I think exactly.
And I have a third comment. In the last meeting that I missed, but I had raised some questions, one of which was whether or not the 20%, I can't remember the language for it, but when developers are required to set aside either funds that go into the housing fund of the county or the 20% is set aside for affordable housing. Under these various scenarios, it seems to me that we as a housing and affordable workforce housing committee would want this study that we're potentially going to apply for to speak to that, one of or both of those scenarios, where do we get the most affordable housing if we go in this direction?
Chuck, I think what you're thinking of is where there's an IDA housing development that's proposed, where we're not talking about IDA here. We don't have an IDA development area in the town of Dryden. But what the IDA does is if somebody wants to build housing in within this, it's the CTAP area within the city of Ithaca, either they need to include themselves 20% of the units to be affordable, or they need to pay a certain amount. I think it's just $5,000 a unit for their unaffordable. So into a housing fund. So now inclusionary zoning is a whole different thing that the town doesn't have, but might consider. That's in among our recommendations to the zoning group. It doesn't exist at this moment.
Explain what exclusion is.
Inclusionary zoning is
Inclusion. Okay.
is where there are different ways. Well, you can say that if you're going to build multifamily housing in this area, X percentage has to be available at, say, up to 80% of area median income, and there are formulas about that. So you know, if Ezra Village, if there's, let's say if the village of Dryden had inclusionary zoning, and you said, okay, Rocco, you have to do at least 20% of your units have to be held out for people at a certain level of income. So that's a great idea. It, however, requires that the developer understands how to test people's income qualifications and then manage that and make sure as when an apartment turns over, the next person also is income qualified. So it's a great aspiration. It's hard to do with private developers because that's not their expertise. If you bring an INHS, that is exactly what they do.
What they do. That's their business.
So that's kind of why I'm interested in, but INHS is reluctant to do small projects. There's a lot of labor per project. And if they can do a project of 100 units, they'd much rather do that than 4 or 5 or 6. So I think, and I've talked to Kate De La Garza, their director. They would love to be invited. I mean, this is since Paul Mazzarella was director at INHS. He was interested in this parcel when Ed Marks was planning commissioner. I mean, this is like INHS has been looking at this section of the county for at least 10 years. And there's been, you know, we just haven't ever gotten anything off the ground. Mostly because the property owner has just been stuck in, you know,
he doesn't want to deal with it. So what you're saying is, which I agree, this is an area that we should focus and get the water and sewer to it. And then you're saying once you go to that point, INH, if they're interested, they would give a mix. They would maybe give it apartment houses. There are certain prices, and they give housing, and they would own the property so that the next person that buys the house can only get so much increase because they've done trust that way.
Yeah, I
if we
assume
could get them,
that
that'd be fantastic in my mind.
I assume that with a parcel this large, they'd be interested in doing a mix, you know,
Yeah.
and that would be their creative, you know, juices would flow at a space that's this attractive.
They could even put modular houses somewhat similar to what they would put in a trailer park in one area, because on 100 acres, you could put 10 acres of that where you could own it and be that type of housing and apartments and everything else. So
They would do a lot. They do a lot of different. I have a lot of different options, and I think, Ray, what you're saying is we could, with this little grant, 10,000, or as Chuck, as you identified, the town does have to put in about $1,000. So let's say it's an $11,000 contract. Somebody takes a look at what we know so far. And since a lot of work has already been done, and especially if we can get TG Miller to finally sign off,
Give it one.
a lot of work has already been done.
Mhm.
Somebody can come in, maybe Toma, or I don't know who, but comes in and plays with this information and says, here's one idea you could do. Maybe we could ask him for a couple different sketch plans. That sets the table for somebody like INHS to pick that ball up and run with it. Then we would have done a little bit of the advanced work to make it more attractive for the next person, next entity to come along.
I like the concept. Could I add the thing? Talk to INH, what would help them go to the next step? The $11,000, what the study would help you move forward. And maybe even get some money from Parker or Parks, whatever it is, Parks, to make it $20,000 if that's what it needs to be. But
You're saying, never mind.
I think this is something that's more that we could help and direct than finding out, because then you have 5 different park departments. I mean, not parks, but trailer parks, and they still would have to use the information to do something, because nobody's going to come in. It's their private property. And if they're trying to get a grant, they'd be maybe try to help them for that. But doing a study, I don't see how that benefits them. That they, what are they going to do with the information? They already know they have the empty spots. What they need to know is, can they get money to help them upgrade it or get the water and sewer there to make it more profitable or better? And I think the project should be directed to this one, because it's 100 acres and you have a company that has a super track records, INH. And I think that's the preferable way to go with our money, not to ignore the others and try to do something for it. But I think that's, to me, the more practical way to get more housing. And INH does try to go with reasonable pricing housing, and they do try to keep the cost of whatever the house built doesn't flip to 2 values high, doubles its price in 5 years. Because I assume they will use the same process they do, whether they maintain the owner of the property. And yes, it's going to cost $400,000, which is not cheap housing. But next year, it's only going to be 2% more if the guy sells it. It's not going to be inflation. It's gone up 10, 12%. And it's like my daughters probably went up 90% in 3 years, and that makes, even if the house was cheap, it's impractical to call it affordable housing in the future. And to have it where it's tied to the land that they can only increase by 2% or 3%, I think that's the way to get more affordable housing than any other way. Because it might be expensive now, but 5 years from now, those will be cheap compared to the houses that are costing $500,000 instead of $400,000. And we can't get back to the $200,000 houses, which I always thought. I'd watch the TV shows and they say, and this house is for $500,000, and we're going to flip it and sell it for $700,000. I go, oh my God. Well, our house down the street was just, it's only $200,000. It's got more square footage. I'm going, it's maybe not brand new today, but and now our prices have gone up. And one of the things to help things more affordable right now, there's no supply. There's a big demand. So if you add 4 more 100 houses there, and Ezra finally gets to build, he adds 500 apartments within 10 years. It's going to keep the prices, because we want to be the growing area. We want the businesses to come into this area. And they don't come into places where they're dying. They don't come into places where there's no housing, because they want to bring in a crew of 20 people or so, and they can't find anything that they like. And then where are they going to get the employees? Because we are of an area that people are aging, like me, and I'm not helping, and we're still taking up a house. So to be growth, that's one of the reasons they grow down so south, was better the weather, and now it's getting worse weather, but they're building. You open a business and somebody's going to move into a house that's just being built. And,
Mike, may I interrupt you? I want to take my proposal off the table. I think particularly if we could get INHS involved, either in doing this upfront smaller fund consulting work, but helping us flesh out the vision and retain as much affordability in the ultimate development, whatever form it takes. They really are the area experts. The relationship with the town is excellent, as I understand it, and in lots and lots of different ways. I wonder if we shouldn't use the rest of the meeting today to clarify whether we're just talking about this particular parcel of land, or is there a larger nodal concept in let's talk about the NYSEG nodal area as it's conceptualized in the comp plan. And if it is that larger area, then I think we have some additional thinking to do and questions to ask about what we would want a consultant to render for us, given this infrastructure grant opportunity.
Ray, I have a question for you.
Yep.
Have you given any ballparks how much it's going to cost to bring water and sewer down there?
Well, it's a multi-million-dollar project. So numbers I had been thinking about a couple of years ago were, $1 to $2 million for each utility.
Well, that's reasonable if you're going to have a bunch of places. It's expensive for but pro housing now, you could maybe get a grant,
Right.
for part of
Mhm.
that.
You're
Yeah.
saying like $1 million, 1 to 2 million for water, 1 to 2 million for sewer?
Yeah.
Mike, I love that. Oh, that's easy. That's not a lot.
No, but I thought he was going to say 4 or 5 million,
Well, totally
Well,
will
that
be
is the result. Put inflation on that, and that's the result, 4 to 5 million. Yeah.
Yeah, for the total.
Yep.
yeah.
Well, we have to be nervous about the state's money for pro housing, because
It
the
might
federal
go
cuts,
away.
yeah, we don't know, but like, if we did some more of a study, that obviously then helps us get a state grant too.
Mhm.
Right.
So Chuck, your question, thank you very much for being so gracious about your proposal, and listen, I think we should also think about how to do what you're suggesting and how to encourage to problem solve with manufactured home park owners. Like, what do they need? And we sort of have done that with the Hanshaw Road Park. What do you need to help people get the homes to fill in your pads? I'm sure they would be happy to find things that they that would help them. So it's a good question. I'll go to you, Ray and Gina, about like, how would we draw the lines around this node? And we had the water and sewer. Let's see if I can find that one.
The scope.
We had maps of the water and sewer capacity as it exists in the town. Let me see if I can find. No, I'm not. All right, I'm not gonna be able to find it that quickly, but it is certainly in the. Let me show you this map. This is from somewhere around. I can't remember where that map is, but so Freeze Road, here's NYSEG.
Yep.
And if you remember, I think it was the meeting where we talked with Jeremy Thomas from Cornell, where we looked at the water and sewer, and I can't find that map this instant. So, but the water and sewer that's available mostly was around here.
Right.
Yeah,
to
it
the-
literally ends at the NYSEG lot.
Yeah.
Right. And then and I read somewhere where the NYSEG has a big water tower where they,
Yep.
okay. So in fact, when you are, let me make this a little bit bigger. We don't care about the rest of the town. Sorry, rest of the town.
Oh, no.
So Ray, are we saying that we've asked TG Miller to price out extensions all the way from here to here?
Yes.
Correct.
Oh, so all this industrial development, is that like on their own private utilities?
Well, that big white area is NYSEG land.
All of it? All of it? Oh,
No,
this,
the white area on the north, well, just to the left of the pink.
up here, that's nice, because they've got their substation there.
That's right.
Let's see. No, wait a minute. No, a little bit over, like the eastern half of the pink is all NYSEG land.
The eastern half.
This
Yeah.
is nice.
That's NYSEG piece. Yep.
Does it have
Okay.
water? No,
No,
but it's not necessarily open for them to sell it off either.
right. I'm sure they're keeping it in their stock.
Mhm.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
that's
they-
the thing. I really don't know of other land except for the Leonardo parcel and the Atkins parcel, which is the two of them together are that orange area, brown area.
And that's
Well,
100
Actis-
acres?
That is, because I think of it as the Leonardo is 100 and Atkins is roughly 100, a little bit less. But half of each of those parcels is on the north side of the rail trail. And that's the area that I think
Swampy.
should remain in conservation due to floodplain
Yeah.
and conservation values.
So, but when you look at the water and sewer maps, there's a whole lot of water and sewer here. Is that like just pipes that go from here over to the industrial section over here?
It parallels Route 13 because if you're where your cursor was, that Hanshaw area on the south side of Route 13, that all has sewer and water.
Mhm.
And then all of that feeds down across Fall Creek over to NYSEG and joins the Varnus system of pipes there.
Got it.
And
But this,
a lot of that
this is-
space in between is Cornell land. That's the Monkey Run area.
That's the Monkey Run. That's probably a lot of environmental
Yep.
sensitivity.
Yep. So the only Cornell land in development potential that I see is on the east side of Hanshaw, right along Route 13. That spot right there. Yep.
That was the one, right.
Right, and we talked about that with Jeremy. He is interested in that because of this park up here, right?
Yep.
That's right.
Okay, so a separate question is where are we with Jeremy? But so if we are looking at a study for this $11,000. I guess the question is, Chuck's question is, do we want to draw a circle around like this kind of a circle, or do we want to more ask a consultant to make up a plan or two or three for this parcel?
I would
Because
go with
they're
that
very
land.
different, but
I would
What?
go with that land because INH is interested in it.
Yeah.
And their organization, if they decide to do something, they do it. Over there, I don't know who you're going to have to develop it, what's he going to do, how are we going to get them going? Are they going to have develop in the next 10 years? And once I hear their name, I assume it doesn't happen overnight, but they decide to do it, they get it done.
Right.
And they get financing and they go to the state and they get help. And they are the organization that's trying to keep the price down, not to make a big profit. So
Sure.
I think that's the best place to invest the money. It has both things. It has somebody interested in developing it, and two, they're not out to get rich on it. And I think those are the two things. I mean, and Charles, he keeps looking for a way to help the lower guy that needs the help or more affordable housing. And at this point, that's the closest I think we can do. Is somebody that's not going to inflate it once it's built, the houses or the apartments.
So Gina and Ray, you're the experts. So is it really pie in the sky to think about this area as developable? And the idea that it has water and sewer is only that it has pipes that transit from here to here.
Right. So I don't think that Cornell land there has development potential. So I would look at this as, there's really two areas, the end of the pipes at NYSEG and the end of the pipes at the Route 13 Hanshaw intersection.
Oh,
So we have two potential expansions, each of them roughly a mile. The NYSEG one is a little bit larger of an expansion area and thus larger cost, but both of them have a good chunk of land, 30 to 50 acres of prime developable land. Hanshaw is held by Cornell. The one east of NYSEG is held by the Leonardo family. So I think you have potential both places for INH to do a great project. Or anyone to do a great project. I think they're both very, very good nodes to develop. Now, the Hanshaw intersection doesn't have that county designation of a focus area.
mhm.
Right. Right. Was
Oh.
the pink land to the west of the Leonardo property owned by NYSEG?
Right where the cursor is NYSEG Peace, and then the going west also that in that pink area, that's mostly owned by a Bolt Storage, the self-storage folks.
And then
Okay.
what's this one here?
And that's the existing Bolt Storage facility.
Oh, right, okay.
Yep.
Well, there's affordable housing, you just like make a door into a
There you
storage
go.
unit.
Dark
Yeah.
Well, I'm even welcome to ask if INH is interested in both. Which one would they prefer? Because you're saying they both have potential, they both have ability to get water and sewer, and
Yeah, I think the county would be much more interested in this.
That's my.
I would be because it's right on the highway.
Yeah, it's a perfect
For a bus, for
commuter
everything.
route. This is already the strongest commuter route in the county.
Yeah, it comes from us. I know it is.
From here, yeah, and from either up towards the northeast or through directly to Cornell. I mean, and the issue about this parcel over here, I remember when Craig Anderson would talk about that, and I go like, oh, that's not a node at all, and there's no water and sewer. And then we come to realize, oh yeah, there is water and sewer right here. I think we should keep our eyes on that for the future.
Hmm?
We have so much information about this area.
Let's put it this way. If we succeed in getting this, then that would motivate us to do another one.
Right.
And so
More important.
this one seems the most practical.
So we have a lot of information. There is already an interest in in the area by NHS, right? So I don't understand why we should make it focus the interest in another area. And the county is interested in developing that area in particular. It's a focus area, right?
And they like nodes on roads where they have access to it instead of having to build more roads to get to the places. So it's
Ray and Gina, do you have anything else to throw in here to consider?
Here's a red hair, just a totally red herring out of the blue thing. What about building near a substation? Is there any drawbacks to that?
There are quite a few homes much closer on Pinckney Road
That's right.
to the substation than the land we're talking about.
And they don't complain about the substation at all.
I don't know. They've been there a long time.
We haven't heard anything in town anyway, as far as I know.
Yeah, and you really, from the Leonardo part, it's not like you can see the substation at all. I don't know where transmission lines are.
Yeah,
Okay,
the
just a
transmission line
consideration.
runs through that pink area that is owned by NYSEG. But the substation is further west, so it's almost a mile between substation and Leonardo. But the NYSEG piece that we were talking about, the eastern half of that pink, is where the transmission line runs through.
You'll remember
So here-
when so Gina, I don't think that's out of the blue at all. I think it's really relevant. When we approached NYSEG, I'm not sure who among us did it. Maybe Ray, maybe Martha. Somebody talked to NYSEG to find out if they viewed their old headquarters as potential housing. And they were kind of obscure and said they still had some plans on the table for what they thought the headquarters might eventually do. I think as we conceptualize our application, we should, I don't know, revisit them and make sure that we understand, to the extent possible, what their plans are and if they're friendly to what we're planning on doing, which they very well might be. And I just want to repeat something I said earlier today, that the deadline is September or until the funds are exhausted. So we, maybe back to Ray and Gina, how do we get on this as quickly as possible?
Before I go away from the map, so this is, I believe this is the substation up here, or is it
Nope, yeah.
here?
The second spot you picked. Yep,
This one?
yep.
And there's, okay, there's the mobile home, manufactured home park here. There are
Correct.
a couple of houses here, and there's a couple of houses here. So you're saying transmission lines go through here?
Nope, stop your cursor right there and it goes, no, the eastern half of that pink is a north-south transmission line.
Oh, north-south.
And
Oh,
it crosses the rail trail.
oh, so it doesn't mess up this land.
Correct. Yep.
Got it. Okay.
I
The other
think
thing I was wondering is about the studies and stuff that were done, and the proposed, the mock-up of what the area would look like with the housing. Is that something that INHS can use, or do they have like their own ideas of, how they can build in the most economical and environmentally sound way, and according to their experience? You know what I mean?
That-
I'm just
Remember
wondering if
that
some of that
report
might be
was-
wasted.
Yeah, that diagram is from a 2007 study. Trowbridge and the Fisher, I can't remember, did the study. And I mean, Trowbridge might want to take a shot at it. And by the way, when it actually gets to be time to move ahead, like once the landowner, say, is on board, and you'd put out an RFP and you'd say it needs to be subsidized affordable housing, permanently affordable housing. And so there are other affordable housing developers, Conifer and some others that like to work in Tompkins County because it tends to be a supportive, welcoming county. So you probably would end up getting proposals from several different affordable housing developers, which would be great. Then you'd get to
pick the
pick the
best.
best one.
I guess one of the things I want to pick up on is the NYSEG, that pink area. I guess it would be beneficial to ask them, that's right next to the orange area where we're talking, if they have plans in the future, would they be putting anything there that would be not favorable to houses just to the east of them?
Good question.
I that would be more the question to me than what they're going to do with their big building or the big lots around the building. It's what are they going to do? touches their the proposed property that we're developing. I would assume they're doing nothing, but I think it would be smart to ask. You don't have to go in details, but would you ever put something in, sounds like substations are not nice to be near a neighbor. And so I don't know what else would be, but you approach them, we're considering doing some studies on this. In this pink area, would you be considering putting substations or other things which would make it not desirable to put houses right next to it?
Mhm.
Yeah, and it might be that you'd want a buffer, but because the Leonardo parcel is plenty big enough to leave a buffer if that's needed.
Yeah.
Ray,
super.
Ray,
Yeah.
were you had finally made contact, right? It was you that made contact with them about their building?
I've made sporadic contact with them, but no consistent. I do have reason to recontact them because their government relations person, Gavin, left, and there's a new person there, Eric, who I've not met yet. So I will make sure I meet with him in the next few weeks and ask him these questions.
Great, great.
Would somebody talk to INH, what they would look for if we did a study? So that next month, maybe we can go farther forward than more realistically instead of just in completely theory.
I'm happy to reach out to Kate De La Garza.
That would be great.
Okay.
So apart from these two steps, what will be our next step? We are already in May, so what will be in terms of advancing sort of a proposal? Something, right? We need to get somebody to pick up, to pick up the I guess the study that we want to do.
I
Ray,
would,
do you think-
I would think
Where
some of
did-
the stuff Martha brings would be helpful in deciding which way to go.
Ray or Gina, do you think $11,000 is can we get a couple good sketches out of $11,000?
I would hope to get more than that, but I really don't know, how big a study would be.
Okay.
Well, let's put it this way, you could think of the 11,000 as seed, and if we had what we could do for 11,000, and then what would we get for like 20 or 25, and go to Park and say, hey, we got this money, this is a major thing, could you come up with 14,000 or 9,000 or whatever it is? And maybe or we might figure out 11,000, you talk to somebody and say that's enough to do what we need.
Ray or Gina, could you draft a scope? Sorry about the dog. Could you draft a scope? You guys know the language.
I don't think I have the bandwidth for that over the next month or two. I don't know if Gina, what your thoughts are.
I would really need some more guidance on it.
It sounds like we can't go forward really until we have the meeting, next one, where we get more information of what we think we can do or want to do, or what somebody's interested in.
What, how about, I know I would think one thing we really want to have in hand is the TG Miller. TG Miller study.
I can send that out in draft, and just please understand that is just a draft.
Well,
Is it open to suggestions? His draft.
Yeah, but it's a very technical, it's just a.
Boy, I wouldn't be
backup.
able to do it. I'm just saying, there's other people that can look at it.
maybe if you tell them that we have a deadline, we're trying to
Mhm.
submit a grant, we need their report,
Mhm.
and they, you know what, or get off the pot.
Maybe.
I knew I liked Martha for some reason. She wants action.
Ray, if we, for some reason, couldn't meet the deadline, I mean, I think we'd have to submit by July at the latest. That means our June meeting is of great consequence, and we may may or may not have the wherewithal to do it. Does the town have any kind of funny money fund to take advantage? I mean, this really sounds like it would pay back handsomely in terms of tax base and densification and a whole lot of things the town claims it wants in its comprehensive plan. If we can't get county funds, are there any other sources you can think of?
Well, I think they would entertain it in the next year's budget, but, you know, I don't know how that would match other priorities of the town. You know, I don't think there's slush in this year's budget to necessarily throw it out there, but you know, anything's worth a pitch.
I think, you know, I will reach out to, I think her name is Shauna Stevenson, the
Mhm.
county housing person.
Mhm.
And just see if they're aware of anything in the pipeline, and that, like, let her know that we're working on this and we may need a month or two to get it together.
Mhm.
That all right?
Sounds good.
Yeah. And Leonardo, I know Shauna had sent an email to you and I asking about how the town board approved the CH Community Housing Development Fund grant. Have you been able to
I think we
research that
did
at all?
something last year. Yes, we did. For the
Yeah, she was asking for a
Road-
resolution. and I
Freeze
don't-
Road, we have a resolution for the Freeze Road development, I think, that approved the $50,000. Can't remember when it was passed, but
That's what she was asking for, the resolution. So
yeah.
If
So
you
the resolution was,
which-
yeah, we need to look for it. I think it is. I think we did pass the resolution.
Okay. Do you have any records that you can find the date and send it to her?
I don't have the records now.
Okay.
They're probably in most likely in the town records there.
Is Lauren still on? Is he maybe capable of doing that for us, getting the information you're asking about?
Lauren, are you there?
You-
Doesn't want to answer that one.
I see him. He can wait. Hi, Lauren. We see him.
You're muted.
All right, I shut off my audio. I need some direction because I'm not taking the minutes at town board, so I can find it to you, but I need some sort of dates or what to look for.
Yeah, shit.
I mean, I think Leonardo just recalled it happening last year.
A message to Bambi might also be sufficient too, if you want help.
I'm sure it was not this year, by the way. So
Yeah.
it was sometime by the end of the year, last year, most likely. But
Okay, I'll flash an email to Bambi and Lauren.
Good.
So we're alone for the day, except that there is an item that Shaq actually remind me is our sort of report, annual report, and so maybe something that we ought to have a conversation as an item for next month, is if that is okay. We
And
have
I
to-
want to mention that I talked to Nick Helmholt, the county's tourism person, who also does the short-term rental data, and he'd sent us a bunch of files, or at least sent me a bunch of files. He and I talked about them. He was planning to come to our June meeting, but if you want us to put that off, so that we can focus on this county grant, I can write back to him and say, how about?
I think it will be, yeah, it will be better to just focus on the work that we need to do to produce some sort of an idea.
Okay, yeah, there's nothing time sensitive about that. I think it's something we would be interested in hearing from. We'd be interested in hearing from him, but it's not really time sensitive, so. And in fact, something that actually is really interesting, state law has changed, passed in February. That counties that want to collect room tax from short-term rentals need to set up a registration system by this November. I promise you, Tompkins County wants to collect that room tax, and in fact, we already do. But if you want to continue to collect that, the county has to set up a system and then report the data back to municipalities. So there's more to it, and he'll tell us about it, but that'll be a big change in the fall, and that should help Ray and Gina with your workload. Because I think you would be getting data, and I'm not sure, but you probably would get the actual addresses.
Yeah.
So if there's a registration system. So anyway, so I'll go back to Nick and see if he's available in July.
Right.
Looking forward to hearing it because we don't have a short term and we need one.
But we should look at that. Is that like July 4th? We better not have a meeting on July 4th. July 4th is a Friday. So do we want to meet Wednesday of that week?
That's July 2nd.
Or are people going to be out of town and maybe we should go the next week?
Most likely, yeah. So it will be the 8th, no, the 9th, right? Let's do it on the 9th.
So you're changing July's meeting to the 9th.
Yes.
Okay.
I would say pending checking with Christina and any planning board liaison if we want to totally redo our schedule, but
Yeah.
unless there's without any other absent that kind of a change, July 9th at 2 o'clock.
July 9th at 2 o'clock.
Sounds great.
Yeah,
Good.
good catch.
All righty then. That was a good conversation. So until next month.
Yeah, and thank you, Chuck. Really, thank you for your innovative idea, and you're working on it. And you're talking to Greg and Holly and everybody else. Let's figure out how to move that idea forward as well.
Thank you. I intend to. It's not dead.
Good.
See you next month.
See you
Okay.
next.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Yep.